Hi everyone! Today I have planned to do something really fun that I haven't done in a while, and that is a paper dress-up doll. Which means we do not need a sketchbook today, but instead some loose paper. And of course I am super prepared for today because I do not have any loose paper. So instead I'm going to do something illegal and steal some paper from my travel sketchbook. Designing dress-up dolls digitally would be a million times easier, but I don't have a printer, so I'm gonna walk you through how to do it with just paper and pens. So we start off with a blank piece of paper. Since we're going to be cutting out a lot of pieces, it's probably best if you don't work in a sketchbook but on loose paper instead. So the first step is to sketch a character. And when you're doing so, ideally you choose a pretty simple pose. And I think since I'm currently doing my Pokemon themed Inktober, I'm gonna continue by drawing Pokemon, and I will draw a Dolliv because we are making a paper doll. See my funny little joke? There are two ways you can pose a character for your paper doll. First option is where you pose the character itself, and it's probably best if you keep the pose fairly simple. The other option would be where you draw a character that kind of has their arms crossed, so you would basically only see the silhouette. And then instead of having the character do a fun pose, you can pose the character with the clothing that they're wearing. So you can design the outfit to actually have arms attached to them, rather than having the doll's arms showing underneath the outfit. But to keep things as simple as possible, I will just pose the cute little Smoliv. And since we want to dress her up, I'm actually going to take her dress off. I know that for Pokemon, usually the clothing that they're wearing is part of their body, but for Smoliv, let's pretend that the dress is just made out of leaves, and maybe she can have different dresses made out of different leaves. Smoliv also has a really big head compared to its body, so the balancing might be a little off. Now, you have the character sketched, right? And if you wanted to, you could leave it at that, but if you want the character to stand, you can try adding a little box around their legs. Once we're ready to cut everything out, we're gonna cut in little lines here and here and add more pieces of paper, which should help add a little more stability, and hopefully she can stand on her own. Now that I've finished sketching her, I'm gonna line and color her real quick. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with paper dolls, and I know that there were paper dolls available for purchase, but that's not how I got my hands on them. Instead, the first time my paper doll obsession was triggered, I found a website that had uploaded like probably around 50 sheets of Sailor Moon dress-up dolls, like paper dress-up dolls, and that just completely blew my mind. And I can't believe my parents allowed me to do this, but I printed out every single sheet that I could find on the website. And following that, I of course also started drawing my own paper dolls. So the little box that she's standing on is really not necessary to be pretty, but of course if you want to, you can make it pretty. You will also notice really quickly that the exact measurements are not really important. But just in case you're an anxious individual like me, I will also show you the measurements that I used here for the little slits. That being said, I might still have to adjust these later on. It really depends on the character that you're drawing. As the taller and skinnier the character is, the wider your box pieces kind of need to be, just to balance everything out. Paper dress-up dolls actually used to be my most popular type of commission that I used to offer. And I still remember the first person that commissioned me asked me to draw Sinead O'Connor with a bunch of different wigs. And that's not exactly the kind of customer I expected, but it was kind of fun to do. Okay, now that we have our character done, there are quite a few different ways we can go about designing their outfits. If you're a fancy little fella, then you might own some tracing paper and have access to a copy machine. If you do have access to a copier but you don't have tracing paper, you could also use marker paper, since marker paper is still quite see-through. However, marker paper can be kind of pricey, so perhaps that's not the ideal solution. That being said, I also have no idea how expensive tracing paper is. So maybe marker paper is the cheaper solution. And if you're really fancy, then you could also use a light box. Then another option you could do, which is probably the cheapest one, is to just hold your papers up against a window. Or if you're just using normal printed paper, you can usually just place a blank sheet on top of the picture with the character and still see the lines through. However, as you can see, the paper in the sketchbook is a little thicker, so that's not working for me. So I don't mean to be a show-off, but I can't really film myself drawing against the window. So I fear I do have to use my light box after all. And since we're using the light box, it's time to get this little girl out of here. And then let's rip out another page. Jeez, this paper is really hard to get out. Place a blank sheet of paper on top of what's going to be your paper doll. And if you want to, you can use some type of tape just to hold your two pieces together, because the most important part is that they're gonna be perfectly overlapped. So ideally, you can now see the outlines of your paper doll and you're able to trace around it or just straight up draw on top of it the design of the outfit you want them to wear. So in this case, I'm just gonna start off by sketching in Smoliv's normal outfit. So a few things that you have to keep in mind is if you put a stand onto your doll like I did, make sure that the outfit doesn't overlap where the feet of the stand are gonna go. And you need room somewhere to add the tags, because these little tags are what's gonna keep your outfit in place. And similar to the stand, the tags don't need to be measured, they don't need to be pretty, they just need to be practical. And also you want the tags to be placed in spots where the outfit is basically hugging the body of your character. So right here is great because this is where her dress is touching her belly. But if you were to put the tags over here, they would even not help to hold the outfit in place at all. Or you would have to make them like really long so that they would overlap with her legs or her stand. So technically her arms are a part of her dress, but since I've already drawn her arms, I won't include them again. Just a single set of tags is not really ideal, so I'm gonna add a little bit of shoulder to the dress just so I can add some tags up here as well. And then we can take off the top sheet and we can move it around a little to then design another outfit for her. Unfortunately, depending on what your base character looks like, it can be a little tricky to design outfits for them, but I'm confident that after like 1 or 2 dolls, you're gonna get the hang of it really quickly. And even though it might look a little goofy, that's where T-posing comes in pretty handy because that's the easiest pose to dress. Dresses are by far the easiest thing to do, or just drawing a whole outfit as one piece. But of course you could also do pants or you could do tights that are layered underneath the dresses. And let's say you're not interested in adding tights or long pants, but you still want a variety of shoes. We can do that by simply adding slits into the base of the doll, or well, the base that she is standing on. But do keep in mind that adding small shoes onto small feet is likely not really going to work unless you also include some pair of socks that make them a little bigger and just give a little more grip to the paper. So now that we have a few different outfits ready for Smoliv, you might notice that there's still empty spaces everywhere. Something that's not really necessary, but I love to do because I think it adds a little to the playful factor, is to draw some items into these empty spots. Especially when you're drawing Pokemon, I think the easiest things to add are like Pokemon related items. So you could draw the Pokédoll, Pokeballs, or maybe some of the Pokeberries. And now I'm gonna line and color this.
Ooh, I know what you're doing. That is cute. Is that the video? Yeah, that's adorable. I like it.
Now that we have the doll and her outfits already lined, colored in, it is time to cut it out. But personally, just before I cut it out nicely, I like to glue another sheet of paper to the doll itself, just to make it a little more sturdy and to help it stand up. However, I'm not gonna do that with the clothing items because those I do want to keep light. So I'm just gonna do a very rough kind of cutout. Then I'm going to glue this on this pattern paper. For one, this pattern paper is slightly thicker paper as well, and mostly I'm doing this for the aesthetics. But you can achieve the same effect by just gluing 2 pieces of printer paper together, and it should be thick enough to work. And now while I let the glue dry, I'll go ahead and cut out all the outfit pieces. I also decided to glue the items onto the extra sheet of paper, just to make them a little more thick and stable as well. And here are all my pieces cut out and ready to be put together. So first off, we have Dolliv's normal little dress. And basically you just put her outfit on top of her and then fold the little tags over. It will always be a little flimsy with paper dolls, but it should hold well enough. I've never been very good at crafting, so I have to apologize for the clumsy assembly. But here she is, our little Dolliv. Here she is wearing her iconic green dress. And here she is wearing her iconic green dress and holding a bottle of olive oil.
Small of oil.
Or small of oil. That makes it a lot creepier. So as you can see, she is standing. And if you had a second one of her, you could put her over on the other side and then they can have a little conversation. Yeah, hi. I love olive oil. Now to summarize everything. Step 1, draw a character. You can draw them in whatever pose you want, but the easiest to dress up is either a T-pose or when they're having their arms crossed across their body. Optionally, you can also add a standing base. Step 2, design clothes. Method A, using tracing paper and a photocopier. Method B, using a light box. Method C, using a window with sunlight. Or option D, simply placing a sheet of printer paper on top of your character. Important to remember when you're designing the clothing, always keep room for the tags. Optionally, you can also add little items to fill up the empty spaces on your clothing sheet. Step 3. Cut everything out. Optionally, you can glue the character onto another sheet of paper or cardboard to make it a little sturdier. You can also do that with the clothing, but I personally prefer just to keep those on normal paper. And step 4, dress up your character, play around with them a little, and just have fun. I'm not really sure how to end this video, so I'm probably just gonna give you a little fashion show, and I really hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you made any paper dolls recently, and if you don't want to make any paper dolls of your own, but you just want to play with them, I'm gonna upload this one to my Ko-Fi, where you can download it for free if you want to. But I do think it's a lot of fun to just make them yourself, and you can make them of pretty much anything, given there is enough room for those little clothing tags. So I hope to see you again next week for a new video, and I hope you're going to have an amazing weekend. Bye-bye!
Bye.